we've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to round 3 of the JSRA's Caribbean Touring Car Championship Season 6, the Italian Tour, coming to you live from the historic Imola circuit. This track, renowned for its challenging layout and rich motorsport heritage, promises as always an action-packed event ready for some thrills, as two double headers for two 20-minute sprint races are to come. We will have 20 minutes plus 1 lap, followed by a 20-minute plus 1 lap full reverse grid, as you see Mr. John Singleton being slightly bullied there by the JSRA driver of Rohe Robinson. But this week, and we are in for some thrilling racing today with as we said earlier, a full reverse grid format in race 2 and the added success ballast shaking up the field, as we have quite a few updates for us this week. We have Jaden Harrison losing 8 kilograms after finishing outside of the top 5 last week, so he now sits with 22 kilograms for his success ballast for this week. Daniel Velez is the next one. He did place 5th, so he gained an extra 10 kilograms. He will be sitting with 35 kilograms this evening. As you can see, him still finding pace there, as well as Jaden Harrison, but Daniel Velez now will be sitting with 35 kilograms for this week to tackle this evening's race. Rohe Robinson winning the previous race and coming second, if I remember correctly, or third in the second race, does fill this week with 50 kilograms of success ballast. So he is in for a rough time, but nonetheless he's only a 10th off of the race, or the fastest driver on the track so far, so he's not necessarily feeling that 50 kilograms too badly, but I'm sure on the straights is where he'll be losing the majority of his time. Roger Keller is the next one, up with 35 kilograms. He started with 15 kilograms last week and has now made his way up to 20 kilograms for placing 3rd place in race 1 of last week, after a valiant defense against the likes of Daniel Velez and Kurt Moss last Friday. But what an event that was. John Singleton is the next one. He is only sitting on 2 kilograms. He had 10 kilograms but placed outside of the top 5 last week, so he has minus 8 kilograms to his drive for this week, so he will have a good chance to see if he can gain a little bit of extra. But he is sitting comfortable now in the bronze, or top step of the bronze class, so he's looking like the one who will be promoted in the next week's, my apologies, next season's silver class. So we'll continue to ride along board with AC karting within him and his teammate Rodrigo Senowell, now sitting P11 in the time standings at the moment, but the two are, well, AC karting is leading the field for the bronze class. Finally, we have Raven Plummer, who did not have any success ballast from last week after having a torrid round 1 after being crashed out in a few of the important moments of the race. But she did finish in 2nd place in the first race. Had a little rough second race, but nonetheless that one doesn't count to the success ballast, so she did lose out a little bit of points. But she does sit with 25 kilograms, and unfortunately we will not be seeing the fan favorite Mr. Massive here this evening, but nonetheless he did place 4th place last week, taking that 4th position away from Daniel Velez of Nova Racing. So he does sit now with 15 kilograms of success ballast. We have a 15-minute sprint qualifying to come in the next few moments. We are, as stated earlier, at the Imola circuit. We have 4.959 kilometers, 3.081 miles of track, 22 turns. The race lap record here is, or has been, set by the infamous Michael Schumacher in the Ferrari F2004, all the way back in, obviously you can guess it, 2004. But that was a Formula 1 car. These are our Caribbean touring cars. Who will be the victor here this evening? Jaden Harrison looking very promising, 2/10 clear of the next car behind him. and we'll ride along board with him as he is still finding time. And you know, himself as well as Mr. Robinson will always find pace in qualifying and in the race, so never say never. The two do have quite a bit of ballast here, but nonetheless they are quick and rapid, and they will find their time nonetheless. He seemed they're sitting in the slipstream of who is that, not too sure at the moment, but they're looking like he's bullying a little bit in these latter stages of practice. But that being said, even having the likes of that BMW right in front of him, he still finds only to lose a 10th in sector 1, so you can see he still has time to find in these stages. We have about 10 minutes of free practice remaining, and then we will get dive right into the qualifying session. 15 minutes of qualifying followed by 2 20-minute sprint races. We will have the likes of Jaden Harrison, Rohir Robinson. We did have Senna Somerville back on our servers, but unfortunately will not be able to make the race. He did look rapid, but unfortunately will not be able to make the race this evening, but I'm sure we'll be back in the next few races for the season. But nonetheless, we have returning drivers. Michelle Wallace, we saw him make back his way into the server last week, had a rough race with the rain, and you know, Assetto Corsa rain being a little bit more difficult than what you're used to in Assetto Corsa Competizione. And the iRacing is, based on what we hear, just a lot more realistic. But there goes Jaden Harrison, not setting a blisteringly fast sector 1 or sector 2, but blisteringly fast sector 3, going 5/10 clear of the field, 5/10 clear of his previous time, and he is looking like he's ready to dominate here this evening at the Imola circuit. And we'll just ride along board to see who is to follow as the times keep coming and coming down more and more. Mikhail Charles, as always, tends to leave his practice up for qualifying. He does find pace during the race, so we'll hope to see him in the higher ranks. As you see Davil part there looking very drifty in that BMW, and he is the next one. This is his second race on a steering wheel, so looking forward to seeing what he can bring to the field here this evening. And his quality of racing is only improving as the racing goes along. And as always, we invite you, if you don't get the chance to, please feel free to send out a DM and see where you can join us and see if you can enter into the ranks of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship. A quick update as well, we do have a endurance event coming up in a month time. So a month from tomorrow we will have a 2-hour Fuji endurance event, and we invite all who are listening, all who are racing, to take part. See if you can get in on the action. It was a complete success at the Circuit de la Sarthe, the Le Mans 3 hours that we did last month, and we are excited to bring back 2 more to finish out this year, and finish out this year as strong as possible. So if you are interested, please feel free to reach out and get as much information. Jaden Harrison there, a full second clear on his previous time and a full second clear of P3. We saw this last week, so Rohir Robinson clearly feeling the effects of those of the ballast, but nonetheless he is one to leave a little bit of sandbagging until the qualifying session. So we'll ride it out a little bit until they set their indicative time. But right now 152.665 is the time to beat, set by Jaden Harrison. We have about 5.5 minutes remaining in free practice until this qualifying session begins. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll ride along board with the drivers as they take it one step at a time. We'll also ride along again with AC Karting, who for the first time this season, Rodrigo is leading his teammate John Singleton in the ranks. So we'll continue to watch that as that goes along, because those two have seemed to be rivals but best friends at the same time. So we'll definitely enjoy to see what will happen in that qualifying session as the time concludes. Daniel Velez now sits in P5. This is again free practice, so nothing indicative so far. Persons will be saving their fastest laps for the qualifying session. The track temps are relatively cool, so we were hearing the drivers complain a tad about the track grip and the tire temperatures, so we'll continue to ride and watch what will happen in the next few moments of this qualifying session. Ladies and gentlemen, 5 minutes to go. 5 minutes to go. And just a reminder, as you see Daniel there going very powerful to say through that final chicane there. We are in round 3 at the Imola circuit in Italy. We are using the live weather app. If you take a look on they were on thunderstorm warning, and the clouds did look a little bit dark earlier in the practice session, but the clouds are still looking relatively overcast, so we'll continue to watch and monitor that, because it seemed like it should be a dry race, but nonetheless, in Italy right now it does look like they're in the midst of a flood thunderstorm watch, so we'll ride along board to watch and see what will happen in that case. Will the drivers be seeing a little bit? I know up to last night we were seeing a little bit of rain in the servo, but as we said earlier when we took a look, it did seem like it should be dry, but 30 seconds remain. There you see Daniel going a little bit too wide there, coming out of turn 5 is that, as the drivers are now heading into the pits, as the practice session should be coming slowly to a conclusion. See the BMW looking very smooth there. Coming out is Mr. Mission Wallace there, sitting in P6 with a 153.881. As it stands, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 drivers sitting in the pits, and we have about 3 drivers out on the track, ready and rearing and finishing up their final lap. As you see, Mr. Wallace there improving on his time in sector 1. So as it stands, that would put him roughly by about P3, P4, depending on how he goes around for sector 2 and the latter of the track. As he comes around now, should be finishing up sector 2 by the time he reaches right about the chicane. To see how well he's doing there, and we will watch and see where he can fit in this mix. And he did improve again in sector 2, so looking very smooth as he is getting the track more and more as the servo continues. Hearing some of the drivers asking about what the kilogram and success ballast looks like.
You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order. You've seen almost exponentially more contact between these rivals than in the first race. Had or brand new sponsor Ceramic Hair been a part of this competition, they'd have been getting quite the work order.
ladies and gentlemen, we are here live with action as we have, I believe, 18 drivers out on the field ready to go rearing and roaring around this beautiful and infamous Imola circuit, as we have John here from AC Karting coming around the final corner to start his first flying lap. He does have Rohir Robinson there right in the rear view in that yellow and black Hyundai Elantra, so we'll watch and ride along board as he will be chasing the BMW ahead of him. But here goes John to start the first flying lap. Now, he did look relatively quick. He only has 2 kilograms this evening. He is leading the bronze class for AC for the CTCC bronze class in AC Karting team, as well as his teammate Rodrigo Seno Wild there now. So we'll ride along board with these two as they head down now to finish sector 1. But as we said earlier, this track is going to be very demanding, especially with the cold temperatures on the track. But ladies and gentlemen, we will get going in only a moment's time. So far, the man with the most ballast, funny enough, is leading the pack in sector 1 now, with a blistering 31.452 and a 44 seconds in sector 2. So he's looking very quick, is Rohir Robinson, and we'll ride along board. But we just want to finish up with John as he finishes up this final sector. I was dragging over the drivers into the race communications room in the Discord, so please, I apologize for that little brief distraction there. But here comes John now to finish across the line and finish his first lap. That obviously puts him in P1 with a 154.739. Rohir Robinson right in front with a 154.270. So the two looking very good. The fastest lap so far was a 153.2 set by Jaden Harrison, so he isn't looking as quick as he should be. But sector 3 quickly dismantled from Raven Plummer, but still 157.5. That doesn't look like it was her best lap. Rohir Robinson now, you know, he's a sandbagger of the group, but we'll ride along board with him in just a second as Jaden Harrison now riding right there in the slipstream of another BMW. Who is that? And it looks like the likes of maybe, not sure as yet, but we'll see in only a moment's time as the two come around the final corner here. And they will be flying to see where that will put them. Rohir Robinson again with a purple sector 1, so 50 kilograms of ballast is clearly not affecting him. But Jaden Harrison there, rapid in the final sector, did not set a purple sector 1 or 2, but sector 3 was just his to behold, and there he goes into P1 with a 153.476. Rohir Robinson though still looking like he's going to throw a little bit of damper to Jaden Harrison. Did not look too smooth there heading into sector 3, so that will drop a few tenths there heading into the final sector. But will this be enough for him to take back that pole position away from Jaden Harrison? But Rohir Robinson with 50 kilograms, and there he goes too wide, and that is his to the detriment of his final lap, or his lap, sorry, my apologies. And we'll have to get going again to try and see if he can outwit his Jamaican counterpart for that top step of the podium. As he comes around, does not improve, especially because he would have invalidated that lap. John Singleton is in P3. Daniel Velez though was rapid in sector 2, going 3/10 clear off Jaden Harrison, but still, where will that put him as he comes around the line? 153.8 to put him into P2. Raven Plummer as well is in P3. Rohir Robinson has some work to do as he is now in the 154 154.270. We know his time should come down slowly but surely. Mikhail Charles there as well, the next driver who did not put much time or practice in as always, but we will ride along board to see where he can gain his time back in the next few moments. But as it stands, Jaden Harrison is very much so comfortable in P1, almost 3/10 clear of P2, and P2 is not improving. Rohir Robinson, the man with 50 kilograms, is now 4/10 quicker in that lap as he heads down now to finish up sector 2. How will his time go? Jaden Harrison there again as well, extending his lead now to 153.194. Here is Rohir Robinson as he heads to the chicane, not looking like he's getting the best run through there. He is 2/10 up on his personal best, so that is still not necessarily the quickest, but still a very good time to be, and he's a second off of P1, looking like he may be improving into the top 3 after this lap as he comes now around the final corner and heads down on that very long straight. I'm sure he would have wished to have some form of slipstream here, but that looked like it was John Singleton who was in the background who made or put a foot wrong, and there goes Rohir Robinson now 153.635. He did admit as well that his favorite track is Brands Hatch, and guess which one was his second favorite? It was Monza that he did last week, and number 3 is Imola Circuit. So he does love these tracks as we ride along now with the next Hyundai Elantra Kimani Eastman, who was a 10th up in sector 1, looking very rapid. So we'll watch to see where he can put a foot in his sector 2, 100ths up in sector 2 on his personal best. So still not necessarily the fastest lap out there, as a 43 is his sector 2. I believe that is not slow, but still, where will that put him? That should, if he can keep it up, hopefully this is not the commentator's curse, put him into the top 5 contention for that final well, I was gonna say kilogram spots, but 148 as he leads up. This is looking very good for him as well, actually, as he comes along the line. 154.358. P6 is his position there, and he will definitely be trying to see where he can even improve and gain back that extra spot on the driver ahead of Deville Park or Raven Plummer, who are still very much so in the midst for him to steal a position, as Deville Park there now on the second race in on his steering wheel. I'm very happy for him, as he's been a controller warrior and still showing pace as he's coming through the field and catching back up to the pack quickly as he can. P5 sits with a 154.316, looks very wide there as he's now heading down now. I believe that's Rodrigo. No, yep, that is Rodrigo that he is finding himself in traffic with. Jaden Harrison there pulling alongside the outside, not to get in the way of anybody there, as he has a few drivers and traffic, but that did look like it would have slowed down Deville Park in particular for that run. But nonetheless, he has another run in him, 4 minutes to go, so that would give him roughly about 2 or 3 laps. Hopefully he has enough fuel to get those done, and he comes around along the line but does not improve. Roger Keller, though, who does have quite a bit of kilograms here this evening, did look rapid in practice in that Toyota Corolla, and still looking very rapid as he now sets a sector 1, looking like he could be putting some pressure on the top 5 in front of him. He is sitting right outside. Points do go up to P10, but kilograms are success ballast does go all the way up to P5. So we'll continue to ride along board and see what can be done here for him as he heads down now into this double right hander. Hug that curb, use as much of those sausage curbs as possible. You don't want to use too much and throw off the balance of the car, but use and cut as much of the track that is possible as he heads down now to finish off sector 2 into that chicane area, and he is 2/10 up on his personal best, and that is a 31.620 in sector 1. He's looking very good. He's about 5/10 up, so this, if he can continue would put him roughly by about P4, P5. So we'll continue to watch there to see what can be done in the dying stages of his lap as he comes around the final two corners to come on that long straightaway. 143, 145, as you can see that BMW using as much curb as possible, but there he goes. I'm assuming it's going to be about a 153.5, and there he goes to take that P3 position from Rohir Robinson and move his way up into the podium spots with 2.5 minutes, almost 3 minutes remaining in this qualifying session. Who else will be the one to throw a little bit of extra drama here in the next few stages of this race? Raven Plummer as well, still trying to see if she can find pace in that BMW M2, and the rear wheel drive cars not looking that rapid. But guess what, we took our mind off for a minute, and my favorite, the fan favorite, the Mitsubishi Lancer, we haven't seen it much in the top three, but Kyle Barrett there now sits very much so sweetly in P2, right behind, only 3/10 off of Jaden Harrison. So he is still even looking like he could improve, and he is one that has been improving race after race. Race one, or round one, unfortunately we had to kick him from the race because of a connection issue, so we're riding along board with him now, and he looks as stable and smooth as possible. And what a time to be stable and smooth, as he's now sitting in P2. The Jamaican, two Jamaicans and a Swiss man in the top three. He did have to abort that lap. It looked like he did go a little bit too wide there coming in, heading into sector 2, so that is his qualifying lap undone. He has enough time for roughly another lap, depending on where he crosses the line, but he would not have more than one as it currently stands. Rohir Robinson though 4/10 up in sector 1. This man has 50 kilograms, ladies and gentlemen, so typically he does sandbag with a full, well, let me not give up his secrets, but typically he is the sandbagger of the group, and clearly can't sandbag this evening as he has the full weight on his shoulder as he heads down now into the last run up down into sector 2. Will we see improvement? And looking very good still nonetheless. Daniel Velez as well, my apologies, we missed out on his lap, but he does now take provisional pole as he's now 400s up. Jaden Harrison there in the rear view of Rohir Robinson, so I'm sure the two will be using each other to pull each other along as Jaden will be stuck in that slipstream on this long straight. Rohir Robinson now comes around the final corner looking very neat and tidy as he's coming around now to finish up this lap. This looks like it could be for pole position with a 153.6 as his current best lap. That puts him 153.071 to take pole position, but quickly dismantled by that slipstream with Jaden Harrison. Now 152.521 is provisional pole time. Ladies and gentlemen, that will be the last lap for some of these drivers as Jaden disconnects, but Daniel Velez now is not one to give up. He is 4/10 down in sector 1, so that does not look too promising for him, as well as Kyle Barrett, but nonetheless they can still possibly make their way up into the next few positions, at least to make it into P3. But Daniel Velez there at 10th up in sector 2 and looking still very rapid as he comes and brings this qualifying session to a conclusion as he comes around the final sector here to finish up his lap. And is anybody improving? It does not seem that way as we have Kyle Barrett there, but we'll ride along board. Kimani Eastman with a sneaky move there to meet up into P4 as well. Kyle Barrett though, again, not looking like he's going to be improving, but maybe enough to at least protect his P5 position as he comes around the final corner to head down now to start his or finish his last qualifying lap. Michelle Wallace will ride along board with him next as Kyle Barrett there does not improve and sticks in P5. The next driver up is Michelle Wallace, who is a final driver right now on track, trying to improve. Does look like he's improving on his personal best. Can he get into the 153s? it would be what is necessary to promote him into the top 10, or even a 154 low would promote him ahead of the Trinidad driver ahead of him, but 153 would be ideal as he comes around and he does promote himself. No, he does improve on his lap time, but still 200ths down on the fastest or the next best up in Michael Charles. I'm getting notes that some of the drivers ran out of gas on that final lap to get in a qualifying session. So unfortunate for them there. Won't call any names, but nonetheless, we have concluded the 15-minute qualifying session and we'll be heading down now into two 20-minute sprint races, something that I cannot wait for. Ladies and gentlemen, I will be riding along board in that safety car there. Jane Harrison now making his way back into the pits. We have him on pole position with a 152.521. Jaden Harrison sits in P1, followed by Rohir Robinson, another Jamaican driver, with a 153.071. Daniel Velez in P3 with a 153.155 to top out that podium position, with Noble Racing Team in P3. Kimani Eastman in P4 in that Hyundai Elantra. Kyle Barrett now in P5. Roger Keller in P6. Raven Plummer in P7. Deville Park in P8. John Singleton of AC Karting in P9. Mikhail Charles of Trinidad and Tobago in P10. Michelle Wallace in P11. Rodrigo Senawild in P12. David Tuta in P13. Stephen Tremblay in P14. Nicholas Donald in P15. Milton Zuniga in P16. And Michael McNamee in P18. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back. We should have had our safety car, but unfortunately the gearbox went out on that safety car, so we'll have the race leader leading the pack this evening to until we get the formation lap on the way. It will be a rolling start. As you can see, drivers weaving there in the rear view, trying to get back as much heat into the tires. This is a relatively cold day of racing, so we'll hope and pray that this, well, we know that the caliber of racers that we have here at the JSRA are of the highest quality, but nonetheless, sometimes we do have a little bit of lapse in judgment. But that being said, we know what to expect in the next few moments here at the JSRA. Ladies and gentlemen, we are heading now into sector 2 as the drivers, we have one man as a and sorry, we had one driver spinning out there in the background and some confusion there, so we had to get them back into play. And just doing a little bit of race organizing here as the drivers are heading now up into the final few corners here. They go through the chicane, and this is where we're going to have some action in the next few moments. We have 18 drivers on track, for roughly about 17 drivers, my apologies. As you can see, a full grid here, ladies and gentlemen. We are in Italy for our Caribbean Touring Car Championship Season 6 of the Italian Tour. What an epic battle this has been so far. Rohe Robinson, Jaden Harrison, all fighting for glory here this evening. We have the speed limit should be coming on at any moment now. There it goes, and we have the 8. We have the first beep, and it is red flag racing, and in a moment's time it is green flag, and Davil Park already getting a drive through. And as it stands, this is looking like it's going to be a race to turn 1. As you see, Daniel Velez there clearly making up a position quickly and trying to move up and pounce on that Hyundai Elantra, and it 4 head down now into turn 1, now into turn 2, and it was as clean as it could possibly be. Cal Barrett there was the biggest loser there and has dropped down from P5 now down to P9, so not the best start from him. John Singleton holding position there in P10, and he will be fighting it out. No, my apologies, he started about P8, so he's another one of those that may have lost out at that start finish. Jaden Harrison and now has Rohe Robinson in the rear view mirror, but Raven Plummer there quickly seeing if she can dispatch off the Swiss driver right beside of her in Mr. Roger Keller. But Roger not giving an inch as the two now head down and side by side. And Kimani Eastman there even looking to see where he can pounce and gain a position. But Mikhail Charles there as well, trying to see where he can fit into the mix and see if he can gain an extra position. Did start in P10, now in P7 as he makes a move on the likes of the Hyundai Elantra. But the two are side by side between Mikhail Charles and Kimani Eastman as the two head down now into the chicane. But Kimani taking that position right back from the Trinidad driver, and elbows are out as the two head down into the chicane. Cal Barrett there in the rear view as well, and there goes Mikhail Charles losing the rear end, and the two make contact. Who is that? And that is a safety car, safety car, safety car. And the leader will be dropping his pace to 50 kilometers per hour. And unfortunately having a safety car there with a little bit of heroics there, but nonetheless we will be watching and riding along board to see what is happening. David Tuta on the wet tires, so not sure if that was, well, clearly a mistake by him on his tire choice there. They did head back into the pits to get any repairs done, as we will just reach out back to the drivers to see what is happening. Should be back at 80 now. So we will go racing again on this lap. Drivers are prepared and ready to go racing. Tire conditions, the track conditions, my apologies, is still very much so cold, and these drivers, I'm noticing, not even trying to weave to see if they can garner back any temperature, as at this point he is very much so just ready to go racing. Should be single lane file up until the leader passes the start finish line. And we'll continue to ride along board with Jaden Harrison as we head down now into the final sector. As Jaden Harrison here now bringing the pack up to the start finish line. He will get green light racing conditions Green light, green light, green light. Conditions are now good to go, and the racers are out and heading down now into turn 1. David Tuta unfortunately is in the pits, so he will be fixing that tire issue. As we see another BMW there in the rear view mirror, we won't even look too quickly to see what's happening there, as that is John Singleton of AC Karting. Unfortunately, looking like he put a foot wrong. Not sure if somebody had taken him out. We will have to look back at that in the post-race replay. But that being said, we've had a relatively clean start back to this race. Hopefully that's not the commentator's curse, but Rodrigo Senenwild now is the next AC Karting driver who will be trying to hold face and try and keep back that position for the AC Karting team. But there is Kyle Barrett there trying to see if he can make that position up on Kimani Eastman, as the two go side by side now, heading now into that fast left-hander. Who will be braver on the brakes? And there it is, Kyle Barrett there, started P5, fell back, and now is promoted back up into P7, so he himself will have a little bit of work to do. We did see Daniel Velez there, he did look like he was off the track. Kyle Barrett there again, it seemed as if he was off the track. Not sure what had happened with him, but still Kimani Eastman continues on and fights to live another day, sits in P6 to try and hunt down the Colombian of Daniel Velez. Daniel Velez did lose 2 positions so far. Roger Keller as well has lost 1, and Raven Plummer has been the biggest promotion now into P4 and will be hunting down the 2 Jamaicans with the most amount of kilograms here this evening. So who will be victorious? Only time will tell. But what a start that this has been to this race. Seeing Jason Morris there of 876 Spotters, brethren, big up yourself. Always a pleasure to have my brethren here, church brethren and car brethren at the same time. But nonetheless, we'll continue to ride along board. So big up again to our sponsors, 876 Spotters, as they always are there for us. Roger Keller there, the Swiss driver, did go careening off, and that does put Daniel Velez there into the next position up and puts him now under contention for that last in P7, fighting now as Kimani Eastman comes around the wide the outside to take that position away from himself. John Singleton there sounding like he has a protest on the way. Not sure what had happened as we were riding along board with the Jamaican and the Swiss driver, but we'll, I'm sure, see what is to come in the next few stages. But that being said, the Swiss driver has not given up his position, as he is now only a few tenths behind the Hyundai Elantra of the Jamaican driver. So we'll continue to watch on board to see what is to come in the next few moments. But there is Jaden Harrison and Rohir Robinson. These two have ballast on their cars, as you see the 50 kilogram Hyundai Elantra right now literally hounding the rear end of that Ford Focus. You see Raven Plummer just mirroring in the rear end, just waiting on somebody to make a mistake, as well as Daniel Velez there in the background just waiting for that moment to pounce. But nonetheless, they will be catching up slowly but surely, as you see the 2 BMWs in the rear view mirror. And if I do say so myself, adding that rear wheel drive car into the mix has just added that extra bit of action and drama into this season, and what a blessing it has been for these drivers and for us, the audience, as the racing has just gotten better and better as the fighting has prolonged. But there is the Hyundai Elantra of Rohir Robinson, one of the developers of the Caribbean Touring Car Championship, and in his favorite Hyundai Elantra, just hounding, just literally tooth and nail between himself and Jaden Harrison in front of him. So we'll continue to hope that the action will be as promising as it is, but that is literally just putting Raven Plummer right back into the mix of things, as she is just waiting and catching back up at 10th after 10th per lap. She was 3/10 slower on the previous lap. Daniel Velez was 5/10 slower on the previous lap, but he is and will have Mr. Kimani Eastman there right on the rear end sooner than later, as Jaden there trying to break the toe takes the outside. It's rallies back on the inside and hugs back that inside for that chicane, and Mr. Robinson there maybe just backing off slowly, maybe see if he can recharge a little bit and get back in on the action in the latter stages. We have about 9 minutes to go plus 1 lap, so that's roughly about 10 minutes, all depending on where the leader finishes and crosses the line once the time elapses. But that being said, the drivers are still going at it, blow for blow. We're going to take a quick look here as two BMWs again not too far ahead of each other. And let me just get back in on the action as we have Daniel Velez there. I did notice Mikhail Charles is only a few tenths off of the car ahead, so I'm sure we'll see him making a move sooner than later as he's on the hunt for Roger Keller, and it was Rodrigo Wild, my apologies, that is on the hunt for Mikhail Charles. But Mikhail Charles is one to find pace in these stages of the race. But that being said, we will continue with Mr. Robinson as he hounds the rear end of that Ford Focus driven by Jaden Harrison. We have some fighting here between P12 to 16 there, as drivers kind of sounding very aggressive in the driver chat. So we're just taking a look to see what is going on here as John is trying to see if he can make that move on the Jamaicans ahead of him. He is in a Jamaican sandwich as it stands, as he is right there in between P14, P13 and P15, but they have a fight all the way up to P10 as the drivers are just there fighting and balancing that final points position, as they're fighting for that final points position, let me say. But quickly, as you see John there making a move on Mr. Michael McNamee, and there's contact as the two make contact again, and unfortunately John there having a rough time with the Jamaicans. And we had to just quickly subdue a coil there that obviously the laps and the fumes are high, but nonetheless the racers will try to keep it as respectful as possible. We'll watch a long board now with Raven Plummer being hounded by the Colombian of Daniel Velez, who is there right in the slipstream and will be trying to mount an attack slowly or sooner than later. Kimani Eastman there in the rear end of these two as well, and please be reminded that the top 5 will be the ones to receive a ballast increase, but clearly that ballast increase, we had it capped at 50 kilograms, and guess what, Rohir Robinson as well is at 50 kilograms there. But as we see it, Daniel Velez now on the inside, heading down now into the fast left-hander, but Raven Plummer little bit later on the brakes covers it off and keeps that position away from the Colombian, hounding the rear end of her BMW M2. But the two will not give it up as 3.5 remains in this race. We do see Mr. Eastman there catching up slowly but surely. Can he be the one to mount an attack and maybe gain a extra point here for silver class, as the 4 ahead of him are in front in position, Roger Keller and Mikhail Charles as well. So the top 7 are the silver class drivers for the season, and we will continue to ride along and see who can gain. Right now Kimani Eastman fighting for points in these stages. Jaden Harrison as well, looks like he lost out to Mr. Rohir Robinson. Not sure what had happened there, but he's now in the midst of Raven Plummer and Daniel Velez. Rohir Robinson is the one with the majority of the ballast here. Jaden only on 22 kilograms, so he will have some work cut out for him in the next few stages, as he has 2.5 minutes to catch back up to the Hyundai Elantra. But Daniel Velez there still hounding the rear end. Kimani Eastman again still very much so in contention for any of the 3 positions ahead of him, so he's just waiting for any mistake to be had, as Daniel there taking a look on the inside there of the BMW in front of him, but he is just waiting for that moment, and there it goes. And Raven now has to hug that inside line, but Daniel Velez now takes that final podium position. Raven Plummer being attacked now by the Hyundai Elantra of Kimani Eastman, and the 2 will now be on a drag race now as they head down into that fast right-hander. And who will be victorious coming down now? And it looks as if the move was stuck for Daniel Velez, but unfortunately for Kimani, he will have another 1.5 minutes to try and see if he can make that move stick on the car ahead of him. Kimani Eastman will be trying his best to see where he can fit, but as it stands, Daniel Velez now sits very comfortable in P3 and will have the M2 of Raven Plummer behind him. But Raven as well has the likes of Kimani Eastman, who has looked rapid this evening in that Hyundai Elantra, so we'll watch to see what will come in the next few moments. But Rohir Robinson looking like he's going to stamp his dominance here and take P1, but still a minute to go, and as it stands we'll have about 1 more lap of racing after this. Devil Part there getting a drive-through penalty for cutting the track, and I'm sure will be kicking himself, but nonetheless he will just be relegated now into P16. We have a full course race reverse grid to come in the next race. Jaden Harrison there snatching that fastest lap from Rohir Robinson with a 152.705, so he's clearly trying his best to see if he can catch back up to that Hyundai Elantra. But as it stands, we will have 1 more lap of racing after this one. Will that be enough time for Jaden Harrison in these closing moments? But there is Kimani Eastman again trying to see if he can put the pressure on Raven Plummer there right on the rear end of that BMW M2. Will he have enough time as he's heading down now? Raven covers the inside line. Can a switcheroo come into place? He tries to get the line, and the 2 will head down now into that fast right-hander, fast left-hander, my apologies, and will be trying his best to see if he can make that move stick. He does have the inside line on Raven Plummer. Will that be the line to take? And no, it is not. Raven holds P4 from Kimani Eastman and will live to fight another day. We will have 1 more lap of racing at the end of this lap, and the 2 make 3, as now Roger Keller finds himself into the mix. Maybe see if he can get, he doesn't want to lose much more kilograms on his ballast. He wants to see if he can gain back and fight for that next points position ahead of him, as now Kimani Eastman will get the inside line heading down now into the final 2 corners of this race. And will he be late and brave enough on the brakes as he goes side by side? He is entitled to that corner, and there he goes, bulling his way through. Is that his move stuck as he pushes that BMW M2 onto the curb? And the two will now have a drag race as they head down now into turn 1 of this race, and we'll just watch along board with the Swiss driver, Mr. Roger Keller, who will have the best view heading down now into turn 1 or turn 2 as the fans would call it. But there he goes, and there was a little bit of rubber banding there for Raven Plummer, and the stability of that connection not looking too safe as she now, or Roger, my apologies, has to back off and give and concede that fight. And there is the Hyundai Elantra looking very twisted there off Kimani Eastman, losing that P4 position. Worked so hard for it, and the two will be fighting it out for the next few moments to see who can gain that last or not last, but that position of P4, and we'll continue to ride along board there. Roger Keller there still seeing if he can gain back a position as well in these dying moments of the race, but we'll continue to watch as Raven is still being hounded by the Jamaican in Kimani Eastman. Roger Keller there still waiting to see if anything is there to be had, but we'll just ride along quickly as Jaden Harrison has caught back up to this pack, and Daniel Velez on a race by his own hasn't put a foot wrong and is now sitting comfortable in P3. Jaden Harrison there again though as they head now into the final 2 corners, and Jaden Harrison, Rohey Robinson hugging that inside line. Jaden Harrison seeing if he can gain by that final position, and the two will have a drag race. Contact maybe, no, and there Jaden had to just concede it into the final lap, and that will be the race for Jaden and Rohey Robinson. Rohey Robinson now crosses across the line in P1, Jaden Harrison in P2, Daniel Velez comes around now for P3, and final podium position Raven Plummer P4, Kimani Eastman P5, Roger Keller in P6, and coming around now for the final turn is Rodrigo Senawild in P7 to finish off for AC Karting in a very good points position. In Milton and Mission Wallace there finishing off in P8 and P9, little bit of contact, and Cal Barrett now to finish off in the final points position. Mikhail Charles now having a torrid time this evening, finishes off the Trinidad driver in P11, and Michael McNamee in P12, Stéphane Tremblay in P13, and Nicholas Donald in P14. John Singleton sounding like he had a torrid time with some of the drivers around them, and we'll just remind them quickly to the usage of the radar to make sure that everybody keeps it as respectful as possible. Deville Park now sits in P16, and David Tutor unfortunately did not get to race as he was on the wet tire compound this evening. We will have a full reverse grid here, ladies and gentlemen. What a race that was. Rohey Robinson finishes off in P1, Jaden Harrison in P2, and Daniel Velez in P3. So David Tuta would be starting this reverse grid in P1, followed by Deville Park in P2, Nicholas Donald in P3, Stéphane Tremblay in P4, Michael McNamee in P5, Mikhail Charles in P6, Kyle Barrett in P7, Michelle Wallace in P8, Milton Zuniga in P9, Rodrigo Senawal in P10, Roger Kello in P11, Kimani Eastman in P12, Raven Plummer in P13, Daniel Velez in P14, Jaden Harrison in P15, and Rohir Robinson would finish the pack in P15 or P16. We do have a retirement from John Singleton. Unfortunately, it will not be running in the second race, but we'll still have the races going on in the next few moments. And ladies and gentlemen, we are back for race 2. We had a little bit of organizing to do, but as it stands, we have David Tuta in P1 in the Colombian driver. We do have a retirement from John Singleton of AC Karting. Unfortunately, cannot make the second race, but we will just have him fighting along board with us for the hopefully for the next few rounds here this evening. So sad to see him retire, but nonetheless we will watch him we will watch him in the next few races. So we have David Tuta in P1, Davil Park in P2, Nicholas Donald in P3, Stéphane Tremblay in P4, Michael McNamee in P5, Mikhail Charles in P6, Cal Barrett there in P7, Milton Zuniga in P10, Rodrigo Senawild in, I think I have lost track as I was listening to the drivers speak, but yes, we will just finish organizing the drivers as we prepare. And we are back with the action, ladies and gentlemen, as we have a drag race now down into turn 1. David Tuta losing out to Davil already, as you see Michael McNamee here side by side. Somebody there overshooting on turn 1. Did we get a clean getaway? Only 2 persons and no safety car. We'll continue racing. And we had a call for somebody wanting a safety car, but unfortunately it was only 2 cars, and the safety car will only be called if it is 3 or more vehicles in the incident, and that was Milton Zuniga and Mikhail Charles. But nonetheless, we have the fights going right back down. And who is that just pulling away? Is that Michael McNamee just getting clear off the field? Nicholas Donald to follow, and Michael again, that looks like the commentator's curse, as he is now right back in the midst of Nicholas Donald. Raven Plummer as well, seeing where she can make that move stick, and she is heading and gunning for P1 as she's now fighting with that BMW. It's a BMW top 5 basically, as Jaden Harrison is the only one who is clearly just making his way downtown, walking fast and trying to see where he can make that move. And the moves have been made. Rohir Robinson has been slow to get away in the beginning stages of this race. So Jaden Harrison now sits in P4 right by Mr. Nicholas Donald, and I'm sure will be trying his best to see if he can make that move back up on the next 2. And there is Raven Plummer. Look like she did go a little bit too wide on the exit of the final corner, and she loses 2 positions, but she does still have the pace to make that move stick. So we'll watch and see. Cal Barrett now later on the brakes, trying to see if maybe he can make that move on the American in front of him, but still not enough, as he has a lot more work to do in the next few stages of this race. David Tuta is in P8 now. He did start P1, did not have the best start, but will be trying to make his way back up to see how many points he can gain, as he does go too wide and has to be extremely cautious there. That might be the commentator's curse there, as he now is relegated back to P11. Kimani Eastman down now in P10, making his way. Rohir Robinson as well, the Jamaican, trying to see where he can make his moves in the next few stages. But 18 minutes to go, Jaden Harrison is already in P2, so he just said, you know what, let me get as much done as quickly as possible. And Jaden sits in P2, sitting right in the midst of the Jamaican and the American of Michael McNamee and Raven Plummer, who is still very much so in the hunt for the cars ahead, as she makes that move on Jaden Harrison on that straightaway, now heading down into the chicane, and now has her eyes set on Michael McNamee. Jaden Harrison now sits in the slipstream, has a lot of time to go. Nicholas Donald in the best position of his life so far, sitting very much so comfortable, but under threat now by Cal Barrett, and Cal now being very intrusive as they head down now into the final two corners. Cal Barrett now is promoted into P4 and has a podium position in his sights, but the man who is sitting on that last podium position, guess who it is? Jaden Harrison, who will definitely be trying his best to maintain that position for the rest of this race. We'll ride along board soon with Mr. Robinson, who's just very patient this evening on trying to take back that positions from the cars ahead. He's just picking them off one by one, knows he has the pace, but still just taking his time to make those moves stick, as he just moves up on his countryman of Kimani Eastman and now is promoted into P8, has 7, 6, 5 and 4 right in front of him, so he has no need to rush, but we'll ride along board with Mr. Robinson here as he heads down now. 15 minutes remaining to go, and we'll be enjoying these next few stages. And there he is, looking very racy on the rear end of that Colombian. Again, he has 50 kilograms now as they head down now into that chicane. Kimani Eastman right there in the rear view mirror. And as I was watching this battle, the race leader has changed now to Jaden Harrison, who is now again under threat by that BMW. The two BMWs, who is now being under threat by the American. And the three head down now out to the final corner, bringing Kyle Barrett now into the mix of the fight. And the top 10 is only separated by a few mere seconds here. Jaden now trying to see if he can pull away from the pack and see if he can gain an advantage from the drivers ahead, as he has a roaring Raven Plummer and Michael McNamee right behind him. And Kyle Barrett now seeing if he can even see if he can test the waters for a podium finish here this evening, as the last race he was a part of had to do DNF early because of a network issue, but had to pace that race and is now finding himself into P4 and hunting down for P3 right ahead of him, between the fight between Michael McNamee and Raven Plummer. Davil Park as well in that BMW M2 is just sitting in the rear view, but has Daniel Velez and the Colombian right behind him as well, with Rohir Robinson, who was relegated back behind Kimani Eastman. So Kimani definitely putting up a fight as best as he can, but we'll continue to watch that as that fight continues. But there is Kyle Barrett now on the rear end, as Raven Plummer has been promoted now into P2. Please be reminded that it's 5 rounds and 1 drop race, so your best event will count, or your worst event will not count to your final standings at the end of this championship. We are left with 17 drivers, 16 drivers in the second race. We started with 18. At the moment we have 16. This is what a consistent turnout for this championship, and something I am definitely enjoying, as we see Mr. Jaden Harrison, Raven Plummer, Michael McNamee now under threat by the Jamaican of Kyle Barrett there, and We'll take a look soon at Rohit Robinson as he is now fallen back behind the Swiss driver of Roger Keller, but there is Kyle Barrett now making that move on the outside on that BMW M2, who is later on the brakes. It looked like it was Kyle that outside turns now into the inside, and the two will continue that fight and putting Daniel Velez now right in the mix of that battle to see who will be promoted. As you see Daniel there hitching on the outside of that Mitsubishi Lancer, just trying to see if he can force that mistake on the Jamaican in front of him, but nonetheless the two are still fighting it out with 12 minutes remaining. Ladies and gentlemen, what a battle this has been for the top step and for the final podium position. Michael McNamee is now the bottle cork in, or the cork in the bottle, keeping the field right there behind and waiting to pounce on him and gain back that position and final podium position. Calbert now trying to see if he can gain his first ever podium here at the JSRA in that Mitsubishi Lancer, but will Michael McNamee be the one to slow him down, or will it be Daniel Velez who will just wait for that final moment just like he did in race 1, took P3 in race 1? Will he be able to gain back another George Russell moment and take that P3 position, final podium position in the latter stages for Noble Racing? But Jaden Harrison now clearing the field and pulling slightly away, 1.9, almost 2 seconds clear of P2 ahead behind him. But the trio, or the quadruplet of this field between Michael McNamee and DeVille Park now continues as Jaden Harrison now sets the fastest lap of the race with a 1:53.804. See Mr. Alec in the chat again, another one of the Bible with bros. Yes, these cars are all balanced, they're all equal. The only difference is the person in P1 has 22 kilograms extra of ballast due to the success ballast that we've implemented for this season, as well as the man sitting now in quote unquote P12 right behind Mikhail Charles, and the Swiss driver in Mr. Rohit Robinson has the most amount of kilograms with 50 kilograms, and he is looking as if he's having a torrid time trying to make his way back up the field and catch back up to the cars ahead. But there is Kyle Barrett there on the outside of Michael McNamee, but Michael McNamee has the elbows out, and there is Daniel Velez as well, trying to see if he can just put that car right to where he needs to be. And there is Daniel Velez now moving up into P4 to take that position from the Jamaican. And is he going to make another move, stick as they head down now into the chicane, and that BMW M2 side by side heading down now, the outside turns into the inside, and there looked like there was contact, but not enough to call for a safety car, and it's now going 4 wide into the final sector. But the 3 now making their way into the final 2 corners, and there is a Mitsubishi Lancer of Cal Barrett now, who has made his way onto the podium for the first in his tenure here at the JSRA. But Daniel Velez now with a through goes Hamilton moment to take back that P4, but no, who will be victorious? That is Kimani Eastman in the background, but there is Kyle Barrett now taking P3, but Daniel Velez now in P4, still trying to see if he can make back that position on the driver ahead of him. And the two head down now into turn 1, and side by side elbows are out, and the Mitsubishi Lancer and the BMW M2 are still fighting it out for that final podium position. But that Mitsubishi Lancer is as wide as it looks and trying to maintain that position from the Colombian in front behind him. And Daniel Velez now still fights for another day. Roger Keller and Rohit Robinson, the Swiss and the Jamaican, right there, they were in P11 P10 a lap ago, now sit very much so, and that shows why patience can be a virtue, as Mr. Rohit Robinson sits in the slipstream of that Mitsubishi, that BMW M2 of the Trinidad and Tobago driver in Mikhail Charles, and Mikhail is holding on for dear life as the two are now fighting it out as they head down through that double right hander. There goes Rohit Robinson giving a little bit of a butt draft there to try and push the Trinidadian through and through as they head down now into the chicane area, and the two will continue that battle out into the next 7 minutes of this race, ladies and gentlemen. Mikhail Charles there, his race now undone as he gets a drive through for cutting a C. Mr. Robinson there just flashing the headlight and saying, hello there sir, I saw that. And the two, Daniel Velez now and Calvert still fighting it out to see who can gain that position, and the two are fighting it out for that final podium position between the Mitsubishi Lancer and that BMW M2. The likes of that Toyota Corolla driven by the Swiss driver right behind in the rear view, waiting for his moment to shine, and the two will continue that battle as 6 minutes remain in this second reverse grid. And what a dramatic twist this has been in the stages of the race. Rohit Robinson again as well, seeing that BMW M2 looking very twitchy. Whew. What a battle this has been. And it seems, and thank you, Mr. Elliott, there, as the mic was muted. But we are now on the, well, we'll have one more lap of racing here in the next few moments. Thank you again, Mr. Elliott, for that update. But there is Daniel Velez losing out to Roger Keller, the Swiss driver. Daniel was definitely looking to see if he could attack that Hyundai Elantra in front of him, but looking like he maybe put a foot wrong now, losing out to the Swiss driver, and has again the Jamaican of Calbert there in his rearview mirror. So we'll ride along board to watch and see what is to come in the next few moments as the race subsides and comes to an end, as we have Daniel Velez now running after the Swiss driver of Roger Keller in P4 as it stands, net P4, as John Singleton has retired already. Daniel Velez there definitely trying his best to see if he can catch back up and maybe pass the drivers ahead. Rohir Robinson now just being as clean as possible, but there is Daniel Velez, those sausage curbs just putting that car out of balance, and you saw it going two wheels as Calbert now looking to see if he can gain in that draft, maybe gain an advantage here as the two head off track slightly. Was the BMW, will that give Calbert there a better run now, heading now into the final two corners, or three corners let me say, as Daniel goes defensive immediately, and the two will go into the final corners, heading now into the final lap of this race. And Daniel Velez will have the likes of the Jamaican right there in the rear view mirror, but Jaden Harrison has had Raven Plummer keeping him honest, but nonetheless Rohir Robinson as well, only about a second clear of Mr. Roger Keller ahead of him. But Roger Keller now has Daniel Velez and Cal Barrett now heading now into turn 1, turn 2, as the three will be fighting it out for that, well, who can gain as many points as possible in these dying stages of this race. Please be reminded, this is the final lap, ladies and gentlemen, final lap of the race. David Tuta is there, does see Kimani Eastman 2 seconds off of him, but we'll continue to watch and ride along board with them. But nonetheless, what a battle this has been, as the drivers have been just taking their anger out on track. We had three retirements unfortunately, with Michelle Wallace, Deville Park and John Singleton. We had Senna in for practice, but unfortunately he had to run on the road, so he will be missing this week's race. Hopefully we will see him back for next week's race, but nonetheless, what an outing for him, Mr. Tommy Gore and Senna Somerville at the last Red Bull Ring ADAC GT4 Championship at the Red Bull Ring, as they placed top 5 for their best result so far. But that being said, this is not his best result, but finished in P2, finishes now comes around the final corner of this lap of this race. Jaden Harrison comes around the final corner now in that Ford Focus to finish this race in P1 with the fastest lap of the race, followed by Raven Plummer in P2, and she finishes off with a 1:55.820, kept him honest for the majority of this race. Rohir Robinson now as well coming around the finish line to finish off in the final podium position, with Roger Keller in the best of the rest for the podium positions. Daniel Velez in P5. Cal Barrett now looked and tasted the podium for the first time in his tenure here, and looking very positive in his future here at the JSRA. Finishes off in P6. Kimani Eastman finishing right ahead of David Tuta, it seems, in P7. David, the Colombian, in P8. Rodrigo in P9. Michelle Wallace, my apologies, I thought, as I saw down at below, I thought might have retired, but no, my apologies. Finishes off in P10 in the final podium points position. Mikhail Charles in P11, Michael McNamee in P12, and Milton Zunego in P13, Stéphane Tremblay in P14, and Nicholas Donald there in P15. 18. What a race this was, ladies and gentlemen. We have the top 3 coming in from each race for a brief interview. We will have pictures in only a moment's time. Just stay tuned for the interviews as the drivers come along board and come in to cap off their evening for their interviews. And ladies and gentlemen, what a battle that was. We have a brief interview now. Finishing off in P2, we have Raven Plummer in the commentary booth. I am setting up for her audio as we speak. Raven, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Absolutely epic race. Especially in race 2, you look very calm and very, as they call, the young kids call it nowadays, very demure. Could you walk us through your race 1, and then we'll get to race 2 and that very chaotic, to say, race 2 start?
Absolutely. So race 1, I didn't qualify as well as I wanted to. I had 3 more tenths in the tank. That would have put me up 2 positions, but I got the great launch in both races, and so in race 1 I was able to take P4 pretty quickly. And then I managed to take P3. I don't know what Daniel did, but he just went off to the side, went into the grass, basically gifted me the position. I took it, and I built a bit of a gap. I could not keep up for the life of me with the first 2. And then I just made silly mistakes, pressure and heat especially. It's very hot out here right now. California has a heat advisory, and we don't have AC or fans in my specific building. So very, very hot, especially with the rig running. And so I was making just silly mistakes, lost a position, battled with Kimani a little bit. I didn't even see him in my mirror. I went back to the racing line. I almost cut him off. I'm so happy I didn't. But I had a good battle there. Tried to keep up with Danielle again. Couldn't. And, finished the best I could in P4.
An epic drive that was, and then you came back. Very chaotic start after the safety car restart, but you came out better than the rest to come out in P2. Could you walk us through that whole dynamic of that, the race start as well as the restart?
Absolutely. I'm not sure what or why the people in front of me did not get as great a launch in the race start. Perhaps because I'm rear wheel drive. I had my 80 kilometers is right in the power band of second gear, and I'm using curves as well. So, I'm really taking off as fast as I can. Maybe that's why. But I was able to go from 12th or so all the way up to something absurd, like 3rd or 4th.
I believe it was 4th, right?
Yeah, and so that was a lot of my race just gifted to me, because that would have been a struggle trying to cut through that entire pack. So very happy for that. I can't remember if it was on the start or the restart, but someone was not really looking in their radar. And of course, it's also partly on me for, trying to pass into turn one going, 20 kilometers an hour faster than them. But I almost got pushed off the side of turn one on the inside. And fortunately, I was able to recover and save it and even claim positions off of it. But very, very scary because my race could have ended super early.
Definitely.
But after that, it was just keeping my head down, really abusing track limits as much as possible to keep the gap up. I found you could find a whole other second, just abusing limits even more. And I already felt bad for how much I was abusing those limits, but there
If
was
it's
more to
there.
find. And so I found it and just kept my head down and finished the race.
And absolutely epic. You kept Jaden honest there. You're about 1.5 to 2 seconds off of him in that in the reverse grid at least. So he had to just be kept as honest as he possibly could. But nonetheless, epic race from you. You will be well. We'll just ask you quickly. What are your thoughts on the success ballots for the season? And is it something you think you'd get into, or is it where can we improve on the racing? Because at the end of the day, that is our long-term goal, to improve the racing for you guys as well as the audience.
The success ballast is good. I don't think it's a step in the wrong direction. But of course, I'm looking at this from the perspective of I want to be taking victories every single time, right? Rather than I want to have close racing in the midfield. I think Danielle is the fastest in the BMW, it seems like, but overall, it seems like the BMW is still slower compared to the other cars. We just have better launches.
Okay, so something to look into. Well, thank you for your opinion, and your review more than anything else. But we'll definitely look into it more and more. I know in the first round the BMW looked the fastest, and then clearly it was Mugello. Maybe it just had more pace at that track than the others, but nonetheless, this is our first season with the M2, so we'll definitely take your advice and see where we can improve on it for the next few rounds and season. But nonetheless, congrats P4 and P3 in the second race. Awesome, and always happy to have you on board with us, Raven. And I'm glad that you're back, and we'll see you again soon.
Yep, take care.
All right, thank you too. And ladies and gentlemen, that was Raven Plummer finishing P4 in the first race and P2, my apologies, in the second. And now we have Daniel Velez of Nova Racing. Daniel, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you guys. How are you?
I'm a little tired now because of the action you guys gave, but nonetheless, we are happy and very much so excited to have you here with us in the commentary booth. How was the race for you?
Thank you. Well, the first race was great, except that I suffered for like 2-second screen freeze. I don't know if the stream was able to see that I went directly to the grass and I lost like 2 positions. That was due to it. That was really, really sad because I intended to fight with Jaden and Roger up front.
Yeah.
But yeah, I was able to capture P3 again. I was putting the pressure on Raven and she made a mistake. So yeah, I was able to do it. And for the second race, it was crazy. To be honest, I think Jaden has a superpower of going from last to P3 in the first lap.
I don't
really know how he do it. That was amazing. I don't know how he did it, and for me was a lot of fight, trying to not crash anyone. Guys were fighting hard up front of me. I was able to start to go, and when I finally made my way, or I was going to make my way, somebody sent a missile. That was horrible. That missile that almost took me and David Park away. I was able to take it. And then when I was following Roger, I was so close to him that I was not able to see the full track, and I went to the grass right when coming on the last turn, and I lost all of it right there.
So that's what happened there
Yeah,
between you,
yeah,
Kyle,
that's
and
that's
yeah.
what happened. And I went to the grass because I was so close of him, so I lost a lot of time there. And then unfortunately, Mihail lost the breaking point, hit me, and made me lose the other position, and no way to keep fighting up front. But it was fun. It was
Yeah.
really fun. It was cool.
And it was epic to watch, man, nonetheless. Well, you came P3 in the first race and P4 in the second. Am I correct?
P5.
P5, right. Epic race nonetheless. I mean, it was fun to watch, especially with you guys. You got a lot of screen time between that battle between yourself and Kyle for the final podium position. As you said, there was a little bit of drama there within you three with the dive bombs behind, but nonetheless, it was epic to watch. Could you just give us a little bit of your insight on the success ballast? Because at the moment it's looking like Jaden's going to get a heap for the next race. But yeah, what are your thoughts on it? And the BMW M2 so far this season?
Well, I think the ballast is hurting more the BMW compared to the front wheel drive cars, or maybe Roger is training a lot more because he was flying. He has
50,
55 kilograms compared to me
right?
that I have 35, and he was totally flying. The time lapse that he was putting was awesome on the race, because Jaden made the pole with something that I was not able to catch at all. I was going to make the second position because I was improving, maybe going for the 52.9, and I run out of
You ran
gasoline
out of
right.
gas. So we did
Yeah, right
mention that,
in
but
the
we,
last
we
turn.
didn't call any names. So you just gave yourself
Yeah,
a
yeah, but the
yeah,
quality from Jaden was really
epic.
fast. I will need to train. I will
Yes,
really need to train to keep
yes.
up with these guys. They are flying. It,
And
it has been great.
And ladies and gentlemen, just keep in mind that Daniel doesn't practice until qualifying time. So imagine if he got a few extra laps in the week. But nonetheless, epic drive, Daniel, and always happy to have you, man. And a huge shout out to you and your team over at Noble Racing. Every week we can count on you to be here when you can. There's no pressure, obviously, but when you do come, it's always epic to have you, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. What you are building is amazing. The league is amazing. Every time the cars are getting better, the championship is getting better. So congratulations and thank you so much for inviting us always.
Congratulations to you, man. It's always a pleasure to have you guys and excited to see what we will build here at the JSRA with Noble Racing and our other teams involved. But nonetheless, absolutely epic drive, man, and happy to see you enjoying yourself out there.
Thank you, guys. Good night.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, that was Daniel Velez of Noble Racing, who finished in P3 in the first race and P5 in the second race. But now we have Jaden Harrison, finished in P2, had an epic battle there with Rohir Robinson. He did lose the car a few laps before the final lap, and then caught back up on the exact final lap for a drag race to the start finish line to take ended up in P2 unfortunately, but now finished the second race in P1. That gap between himself and Rohir Robinson has been closed. Jaden Harrison, can you hear me?
Yes.
Man, what an epic drive, especially in race one. Could you walk us through that battle between you and Rohe? Especially, well, we can even start with that qualifying lap and then get into that battle between you and Rohe. What were your thoughts on it?
Yeah, it was a pretty good lap, but I got behind Rohit on the last lap and got a slipstream
Slipstream.
over the lap as well, but I messed up sector one, the whole up turn one. I lost like 2 or 3 tenths there, so that slipstream got me back my lap. So we were trying to help each other in quali, but it didn't really work out good. But Yeah, and race one was good because he had ballast. He was a little faster in the corners because the car would plant more, but on the straights I would just pull on him and get back the time. So it was a good battle. We were just working together to pull forward, move forward, so that we don't get caught by the drivers behind, and then we fight it out on the last couple laps. So that's what happened. And yeah, it was a good fight. I think because of that straight line speed thing he had with the ballast, I was planning to more just stay on the last corner and then just fly past him. But his car was right beside me and it was so loud that I couldn't hear my engine. So I was there sitting in second red lining while he was pulling
Oh
away. So
no.
I think that just
And I did
because I
notice
shift
that.
with the sound.
Yeah. Well, first, let me just say, you said that the qualifying lap didn't work out, but you're still a full second clear of P3. So let's just put that into um, consideration. But two, yeah, we did notice that the car kind of, especially coming out of the last corner, it kind of just halted. So I was wondering if it was a case where you just took a little bit too long to shift. But nonetheless, it was an epic battle. It was an epic rundown. But we'll just talk quickly on that start. Moving from second to last into the top 8 by lap 2 or lap 3. But could you walk us through your start on the race start as well as the safety car restart?
Um, just keeping clean, staying incidents, finding a driver. Like I found Raven, so I can just move forward through the pack with her. So I just stay behind and just make her make the move and just flop in and then just go forward. Just don't go backwards. Just ensure you're going forward and use this watch your surroundings, watch what everybody is doing and make the best opportunity to go forward, and that's how you do the reverse grid. So just doing that good and getting very lucky is just that was just it. But yeah, in race 2, I think I had suspension damage as well because the car would just like bounce and almost got flung into the wall in the chicane. So I think some small damage there, but it was good.
Well, nonetheless, man, it was an epic drive from you. Raven did keep you a little bit honest there in the stages of the race, but nonetheless, it was an epic battle for P1 in the first race, and then you just took and you were calm, cool, and collected in the second. So, congrats in P2 in race 1 and P1 in race 2. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Jaden Harrison, who is fighting for the top step of the podium in the championship standings with Mr. Rohir Robinson. Jaden Harrison, take a bow.
TY. Thanks for the race.
Thank you for joining, man. Thank you for even helping with the whole development of this series. And there's so much more to come in the next few months. Ladies and gentlemen, Jaden Harrison, driver number 604. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, we will have finish. Well, right now should be the championship leader. We'll do the tally of points, but still, Rohir Robinson finishes off in P1. Had that battle 50 kilograms. Started off in P2. Had that battle with Jaden Harrison, and had that battle up until the final lap in race 1, and then race 2. As patient as a dove is what they call it. Ended up finishing in P3, had taken his time to make his way through the field, but nonetheless made his way through and enjoyed that final podium position. Rohir Robinson, driver number 10, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. How are you?
I am tired. I don't know if you can hear it in my voice, but I'm sure you are just as tired. Finishing off with 50 kilograms. You won't be getting any added into your tally for next week, but you still won't have any removed as you still finished in the top 5. But can you walk us through that battle with Jaden in the first race and then that second race? You looked very calm and patient and cool and just took your time to pick your battles one by one. Can you walk us through them each?
Yeah, race, well, with quali.
Yeah, with quali. Let's start with quali. Okay, it took you a little bit of time to get to that qualifying lap.
Yeah. I think with during the week, I wasn't so confident with qualifying up top because of the 50 kg and the times that I was pulling. But I actually didn't practice with the battery. I always practice with full fuel, race space, and see how it goes. I always try to surprise myself in quali, so I did surprise myself a bit in quali, so that was good with taking P2. But yeah, it was a really good start with qualifying. So team orders with me and Jaden was just to try to follow him as best as possible and hold off any rivals if they come close. But yeah, my plan was just to defend, defend, defend. But when I saw that Jaden and I were pulling away and I was actually keeping up with Jaden, then I just, you know, tried to stick behind him and just be calm. And he made a mistake. I pounced and I took the opportunity, and last lap I defended with my life and came up P1. So that was a good race for me.
Absolutely epic, and it was so fun to even watch. We had some battles in the background, but nonetheless, to catch you guys on that final stretch. I know I've missed a few of your battles in the past, but I made sure to catch that one. And what a battle it was with that drag race to the finish line. But in the second race, you started last and you just took your time. Could you walk us through, because we couldn't watch too much from our point of view, could you walk us through the second race?
Yeah, so first part of race 2, I unfortunately, what would I say? My plan was just to attack a race with Velez and Jaden, try to get through the pack. Once they make a move, I make a move and just stick as closely as possible. But on the first 2 laps after the safety car, then I lost Jaden and I lost Velez a little bit. I was in P11 and was battling, here and there with Mikhail at the back. So I think in the mid part of the race, I saw that I had like 10 more minutes. So I said, wait, I think I still have time to try to mount a challenge because I saw that everyone was in front of me by a few seconds and they were battling. So all I needed to do was just to keep calm and wait for the opportunities. And the door just, came flying. I just went through. But yeah, race 2, it was really good. I really like that. I found myself in P3, so damage control for me for race 2. Yeah.
My apologies, the mic was muted there, but we just wanted the final thoughts now on the success ballast last week in the rain. We figured the extra ballast may have helped you in with the rain, and this week it may have helped you in the corners, but on the straights you are a sitting duck. What are your final thoughts now as we head down into round 4 of the Italian tour, which has been such a success with the turnout, with the racing and the battles? What are your thoughts with it moving forward?
I think with the success ballast, for example, this track has a lot of corners. So once I could get the car to rotate, then I probably could make up the time that I lost in the corners on the straight. So I think it depends from track to track. If you have a track which has a lot of straights, then you're going to be a sitting duck. And I was using my battery as much as possible in on the straights. The corners would be fine, but the straights would be the one that was killing the ballast. So I think it works somewhat. It gets the racing closer, but I guess we just need to refine the system a bit more. I'm glad that I won't be getting any more ballast because I think 50 would have been the limit. But fortunately, this is a track that I love, so I was able to be competitive just the same. But other tracks, maybe it would be at a disadvantage more. So it works, but we need to refine the system more, I think. Yeah, growth is the aim, so let's grow. All right, thank you.
We are coming up to
Yeah,
as
man. So
there